Noon. Welcome to Police Off the Cuff. Coffee with Cannon, backyard beverage, bitchin' with Bill, whatever you want to call it today. Well, I've got a little glare in my glasses here. Usually I don't have to worry about that outside, but it's a little bright today. So I get kicked out of the pool area today. I wanted to do another show from the pool area, but my wife wasn't having it. She said, Rachie, hello. She said, no, go to the other side. I'm hanging by the pool. Okay. So I'm on this side of the house. Sergeant George Eshog, good to see you, buddy. The weather today, can't decide whether it wants to be nice or whether it wants to be overcast. Lovebug 53, the original Lexa. Hi, all. How are you today? Good, Lexa. Doing great. So, I'm supposed to be going to a concert later on today. I was always a huge fan. Tacoma, Washington, Estelle Pretorius, good to see you. More showing up. I hope you too. What a beautiful summer Saturday. Cheryl F., Measy Mom, Susan Bach H., love you guys, Magical Mary. Roll up to the mystery tour, roll up. And that's an instrument. Magical Mary reminded me of that. Reminded me of the Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles, remember? Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Not everyone out there is as old as me that remembers that album. That album had the most amazing cover. All right. So anyway, I'm going to a concert later on today, an outdoor concert. And I've always been a huge fan of the Allman Brothers. And since Greg Allman, a couple of years, quickly there hasn't been really any more Allman Brothers, but someone from the Allman Brothers family picked up where they left off. I'm not sure who it is, and Dickie Betts' son. So they now call the band the Allman Betts Band. And from what I understand, they're pretty damn good. Pablo Cicada, good to see you, buddy. And I always liked the guitarist in the Allman Brothers, Warren Haynes, and he has a band called Government Mule, and he's a great guitarist. And Government Mule, obviously a blues band, sound a lot like, Cher was married to Greg Allman, who recently passed away. Greg Allman was one of the Allman Brothers, Greg and Dwayne. And Dwayne was like a legendary guitarist, even though he died at the age of 24 in a motorcycle accident. And that's why they have an album called Eat a Peach. That was a little macabre humor. Dwayne Allman, his motorcycle was hit by a peach truck, or was involved in the accident, and that's how he died. So, just giving you a little rock and roll history, but so far it looks like the weather would hold up. Cowboy, hey Sarge, why didn't you give up? Give him a polygraph test. Well, that's a good question, but you're not allowed to just give a polygraph test to a suspect. If they say no, that's it. It's over. There's no polygraph test. And if you recall, when Brian Kohberger was arrested, he immediately invoked his right to remain silent and invoked his right to counsel. So you can't just slap a polygraph test or make someone take a polygraph test. That's all voluntary. And the other thing about a polygraph test is it's not admissible in court. So, I mean, we never, ever used them on the NYPD, ever, in my whole career. In fact, when I was getting ready to retire, or maybe in my last 5 years, they were actually going to start a polygraph unit. And they had solicited detectives who were interested in going to the school, and boom, then they didn't do it, and that was the end of it. But I don't recall ever in my entire police career there ever being anyone administered a polygraph test. And there could be others on the NYPD that have different memories than me, but I was in homicide, and we never ever gave someone a polygraph test. So you hear all these smaller departments, not necessarily even smaller departments, other departments, I'll put it that way, that use polygraphs, but again, we never did. I think the usefulness of it is when you give someone a polygraph and then right after it, you tell them you failed, and then you interrogate them after that. It could be useful in that, but I don't know if it's really that useful. So I know Duty Ron went live last night at 8:30, and I was on at 7:30, and I covered the Eliza Fletcher case, a heartbreaking case. That's still really, even though I didn't work on it as an investigator, as a police officer, it's a heartbreaking case, and those are the cases that stay with people. And September will be a year. And the reason that case came back into the public consciousness again is that the perpetrator arrested for that crime has been charged, and we all know he was charged with first aggravated kidnapping, and then once they discovered Eliza Fletcher's body, he was charged with murder first degree. And it's a death penalty case. So that's one of the reasons it got back on sort of on the radar screen, and I thought it was important to cover it. I think, perhaps we've all been covering the Idaho quadruple case a great deal of the time, and of course it's an important case, but there's not always new earth-shattering information to report every day on that case. The big story, of course, was that the defense wants access to the investigating officer's training records. And if you recover early on in this case, the Moscow, Idaho police, I believe the catching investigator, this is his case, only has about 4 years tenure on the Moscow Police Department. So he's a 4-year veteran, which in most police departments you'd be considered a rookie, and you would basically have no business catching a homicide. So someone just asked if I ever looked at the Gilgo case on Long Island. I have. It's a whole consuming case that if I was to get involved in that, that's all I would do, and I can't dedicate my life to that case. I think that the investigators on that case have a pretty good idea of what and who they're looking for, and potentially the perpetrator in that case could be in prison. You remember there was a guy who they had arrested years ago, and I don't have all the facts at my fingertips right now because I haven't read up. Lisk, right? Long Island serial killer, right on Josephine, Long Island. So don't quote me on this, but I really believe that the police have a good idea, potentially, who may have committed that. You got to remember the bodies weren't recovered for like 10 or 11 years. So any hope in any DNA or any forensic evidence was sort of not going to happen, when the bodies were left out in the elements for that long of a time. Decomposition, evidence, memories of people. The time where they really should have been able to catch someone was when, and again, I'm not remembering names or anything, but there was a sex worker who actually was fleeing from the home of a customer, or a John, or whatever way you want to describe him. And then there was some cell phone evidence and stuff. I don't want to get into the case right now because I don't even have it at my, I don't have any of the facts and circumstances. And there's so much, it's voluminous. A couple of years ago, spoke about that case with the great Barbara Butcher, the medical legal investigator the chief of staff of the New York City Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. We spoke about it. And Shannon Gilbert, Mimi, that's right. You're right. Princess Mitch, Princess Mitch asked, when am I going to be on New York Homicide? I already shot an episode. I just don't know when it's going to play. As soon as they let me know that it's going to be on. In fact, I was just contacted yesterday by text message by the producer who wanted to ask me a question. So I don't know if you guys recall, but last winter when I was in Florida, I drove to Fort Lauderdale from Jupiter, and I went to a studio and I shot an episode of New York Homicide in that studio. So yeah, I'm on it. I would like to be on a lot more episodes. I'd like to be the lead in a show about homicide. It almost happened once. Well, I shouldn't say it almost happened, but I did audition for it. The Perfect Murder producers were looking to do a show like, almost like the Joe Kenda type thing with, from a New York perspective. And 3 of us auditioned for it. And they pitched all 3 of us, and not only did none of us get the job, they didn't get the gig either. So, I don't know. It was my chance at stardom, and I blew it. Well, I can't say I blew it. No one got the gig, so yeah, we lost out. We thought they were going to do like a New York-style Joe Kenda case, and I was getting ready. I was getting ready, putting my sunglasses on and my scarf, and act like a star, you know. But it never happened. Linda Daughtry, good to see you. Agate, they're lost. Moon Rain, thank you. Losing is learning. Yeah, look. Lula Morocco, good morning, Lou. Good to see you. I want to ask you guys some things because I've been getting contacted a lot by authors of books, and specifically police books, police stories. And I know you guys know that our format here is to do a national story and then have a good guest on. Because I have tried to do those stories, those cases of the careers of great cops and tell their stories, and even book stories, and it doesn't get the audience. So as of late, I've been getting contacted by I shouldn't say a lot, 2, 3, 4 authors of books that want to come on the show, and usually I turn them down because I say that's really not our format. Like your book that you wrote, it's not going to garner an audience. So I feel bad about turning them down because these are other cops, Moon Rain, people want to know about cases. That's for sure, but Lieutenant Pete's out on the beach with his youngest grandson. Reception not great. Lieutenant Pete's going to be have a birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Lieutenant Pete. Always good to hear from you. He's not getting great reception on the beach. Well, Lieutenant Pete, you enjoy the beach. Joseph Wamba, interview him, the king of police books. Yeah. I tried to get James Patterson on, and I got a hold of his people. And he's writing a book on the Idaho case. And they offered his assistant writer, and I didn't want his assistant. I wanted him. So I turned them down. And then when I found out he was doing a book on Idaho, I said, oh, I'd be the perfect guy to interview him. Why isn't it? And they just, the second time when I asked, they totally ignored me because I guess they felt slighted when I turned down the second string guy they tried to give me, But if they're watching today, they'll be like, what an attitude this guy has. But, I guess you got to try all different things. And I'm definitely going to interview Barbara Butcher in regards to her book. If you haven't read her book, What the Dead Know, it's fantastic. I read it in like 3 days. I couldn't put it down. It was so good. I knew a lot of the cases that she spoke about. I didn't know all the things about her life that I found out through reading that book. I guess when you write a book, you bare your soul, and you tell things about yourself that are uncomfortable. Princess Mitch is reading the book now. Deb Galloway, Lieutenant Pete, if you wrote a book on your experience, I would proofread it. But if you haven't read the Barbara Butcher book, it really is a fantastic book. And, of course, autobiographical. A lot of hurt in that book. A lot of revealing her innermost thoughts. A lot of things that most people wouldn't want to reveal about themselves. And Barbara was really brave to do that. Gladys Epps, hello. Since when is the reputation and experience of the writers? Thank you so much for that. That was very kind of you. Yeah, you know something, sometimes people say, oh, you should do, why you, someone actually said to me, who are you? Who am I? What do you mean, who am I? Like I don't have the right to stand my ground and say, I want this person, I don't want that person. Like I'm not big enough to say that. You know, I see a lot of these celebrity shows, and you know, when they interview people in regards to what is off field, they don't do as good a job as we do. I really feel that way. And yeah, they're journalists. They paid their dues, and you know, they got credentials as far as being journalists, so to speak. What's a journalist these days? Especially a broadcast journalist, you know. But I think that, you know, when it comes to interviewing for the true crime, the real crime stuff, I think, you know, we have the cred, we have the credibility, you know. And sometimes you see certain talking heads on some of these TV shows, and some of them you know right away, boom, this guy is great. This guy really is the real deal. And whatever, say what you want, Bill. There's enough idiots that can't even hold a candle to what you guys say. Dawn Marie, that's why you're so valuable to us. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dawn Marie. It's so appreciated. Bobby Chacon, FBI agent Bobby Chacon. That guy he's the real deal, you know. Not only was he a great FBI agent that worked in Brooklyn with the top homicide squads, and he was the head of the FBI's scuba team, which is an incredible thing. And if that's not enough, he got a law degree from Hofstra University, which is on Long Island. So that guy's the real deal. And you want to hear something? Both his father and his brother were NYPD sergeants. How's that? Bobby Chacon, thank you. He came on my show once. Appreciate the guy. When I see him as a talking head on any of these shows, I tune in right away. There's some others that really, they have that three-letter title, but you can tell that they can talk the talk, but they did not walk the walk. I'll put it that way, all right? And I'm not going to name any names, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. And then they go on as these experts, you know. But Bobby Chacon, absolutely. Zoe 413, I agree, Bill. I trust your experience above all. Thank you. Look, I make mistakes. There's no doubt. I make mistakes with all the facts and circumstances and times and information that comes in. You can't help but make mistakes. We're human, right? We're not computers. We're not... I don't have a research team. The research team, you're looking at them, you know. When we do a show, we have to do our own research, and we may have to do the show without putting tons of research in, you know. And that's a fact, you know. So let's talk a little bit about Kohberger. Where's the case going now? And of course, we can tell where the defense is looking to go. The defense is looking to create doubt through mistakes made in the investigation of this case. That's where they're looking, because you could see they asked for and apparently obtained the training records of at least 3 officers that are involved in this investigation. The prosecution hedged on giving that to them, but I think the judge ordered that they give them the training records, and they did so. So what do you think is going to be the defense's strategy? Of course, just like with in the O.J. Simpson case, they pointed about to all the mistakes that the prosecution made, that the detectives made. Detectives in the O.J. Simpson case, phew, they made a hell of a lot of mistakes. Erica Olson, good to see you. DCPNW, well, what else do they have? Well, that's true, but that's what defense attorneys do. They want to create doubt, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to create doubt through going after the officers. One of the ways they do that is to go after their training. Were you trained in interviewing people? Were you trained in auto crime? How do you know that 2015 white Hyundai Elantra, how do you know that was the same car that you saw in the video? And that's going to be tossed to the FBI, because those videos that they used to try to identify the white Hyundai Elantra belonging to Brian Kohberger, those videos needed to be enhanced. You know, whenever we watch TV or whenever we watch movies, you see them spot like a suspect vehicle on the computer screen, and they zoom in right in real time. It's a joke, you know. And on TV or in movies, they always are able. Colleen, hello, how are you? In TV and movies, they're always able to zoom in on the license plate, right? Is that reality? No, that's remember that thing on TV, they used to have the easy button? Yeah, that's the easy button. But in real life, the easy button does not exist, right? It's the reality button exists in real life, you know, not the easy button. 155 guys in the chat, 72 with the thumbs up, 159 now. Guys, growing Saturday afternoon, a beautiful day. You guys are joining Police Off the Cuff. DCPNW, no alibi DNA at the quadrillion stalking. Well, they're going to argue that the DNA was touch DNA, and that it could have been the touch DNA, that the sheath could have been placed there, planted there, and Brian Kohberger could have touched that sheath weeks or months ago. I mean, I don't know if a jury will buy that, but that's where they're going to go with that, you know. They're going to go with that it was touch DNA and it's not as reliable. Yeah, I mean, you would think that the knife sheath next to the body of Madison Mogen is, you know, to me, that's as close to smoking gun evidence as you could say, as it gets, as close as it gets, you know. And the fact that they had already gotten probable cause through testing the DNA from the garbage of Brian Kohberger's parents in Pennsylvania and ID'd the DNA as his father's, and then once they arrested Brian Kohberger, they did a buccal swab, B-U-C-C-A-L, not B-U-C-K-L-E. Buccal is the inside of your cheek. And that's where they recovered his DNA, and that was matched against the DNA from the knife sheath, and it was quadrillion, whatever. I don't even count that high. That's why I became a cop. I was never a mathematician, you know. Princess Mitch, hoping that the prosecution has much more evidence than we know of. I think they do. I think they do. And, you know, there's so many people. Pamela White, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Good morning. I love listening to you. Pamela, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You know, I keep talking about how the autopsy results have never been made public. And that hasn't been released yet. And potentially, ATS News, your new take on this case is interesting, but Bill is spot on. Well, thank you, Lou Lamaracco. Appreciate that. You know, one of the you know, of course, Duty Ron. It's Crime Time with Duty Ron. He's my buddy, and he also has the great first grade detective, Ed Wallace. You know, who teaches crime scene investigation all over the world. All the channels ask him to be a talking head, and he turns them all down. He would be the best that they could probably get. They have all these other people, busy police departments with lots of crime scenes, like New York City, Washington, D.C., Detroit, L.A., San Francisco, Miami, Chicago, all of these places that get lots of homicides, lots of crime scenes. Naturally, their crime scene detectives are going to be among the very best in the world, because guess why? They get so much practice, right? Practice makes perfect. And besides that they get so much practice, they get so much experience, let's put it that way, testifying in court. Because not only do they process the crime scenes, there is a follow-up to that, and that's called courtroom testimony. And that's why people like Ed Wallace are so valuable. You think a defense attorney is going to be able to shred Ed Wallace on the stand? I don't think so. Because a lot of times defense attorneys don't know the answer to the question that they ask, which is the number one rule of being a good defense attorney is never ask a question unless you already know the answer. Because if they ask a question of Ed Wallace and they don't know the answer and he answers otherwise, who is the jury going to believe? The defense attorney or the crime scene expert? When you have someone that's very confident on the stand, that is an absolute expert, you could see how defense attorneys tread very carefully, because they can make made to be look foolish by the expert. And Ed Wallace is one of those people, and Duty Ron is lucky enough to have a good co-host with Ed Wallace, who's again one of the best in the world, and he must be really frustrating to the TV channels that try to get Ed to come on, and he turns them all down. But hey, he gets paid to do what he does. He gets paid to go to these other countries and teach crime scene. He gets paid to testify. He gets paid to give talks. So he's not going to go on these stations as a talking head. I understand. Someone sent me, I think it's this Tuesday night. C.C. Moore is going on a podcast, that Harvard Lawyers podcast. I've never watched it before. And I actually reached out once to C.C. Moore to come on Police Off the Cuff, and she ignored me. So I guess I'm not a Harvard lawyer. She didn't think my NYPD credentials, but I texted her and sent her an email and never got a response. So maybe when I hit 100,000, she'll come on my show. Brad R. is ha ha ha. Yeah, it's it's funny. Of course, as soon as they hear it's, most of the time they'll go on TV shows, but they won't always go on podcasts, depending. And then if they're going to go on a podcast, it has to be one. C.C. Moore is brilliant, and I don't dislike her or anything. I would love to have her on my show, because she's definitely the king, the queen bee of investigative genetic genealogy, and she speaks coffee, cuffs, and candid canon, the best true crime channel, The Morning Show with Bill Cannon. Lula Morocco, thank you so much. I think that she really has a great ability, and obviously because she's a teacher, she has a fantastic ability to explain something that's very difficult to understand and to simplify it. That's a good teacher, right? Someone that could take a concept that's very difficult to understand and make it interesting and make it simple to the layperson, And I've seen her I played a lot of times. She appeared on CNN about 5 or 6 months ago, Colleen, she didn't solve the golden. Well, but a lot of these guys, these investigative genetic genealogy cases, it's not one person usually that solves it. They sort of work as a team, You guys know the young kid I had on, Eric Schubert. That kid's going to be a superstar. He just graduated college. I forgot he works. He may be working for Othrem Labs. I'm not sure exactly the lab he works for. They hired him immediately, right, before he even graduated college. He was on our show, and he's solved some serial killer cases. He's amazing. He's like 21, 22 years old, and he's been doing investigative genetic genealogy. Lula Morocco, thank you so much for a $50 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Lou, thank you so much for your helping out Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories, contributing to us. DL, thank you for the $4.99 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Yeah, so Eric Schubert, I asked him recently to come on the show, and he turned me down, but with all kinds of apologies. I think that maybe with the new place he works for, maybe they don't want him to make appearances on podcasts anymore. But the kid started doing investigative genetic genealogy when he was 13 years old. He was homesick, and he started getting interested in it. And there's a lot of computer work that goes hand in hand. Building the family tree has a lot to do with searching the relatives of the target DNA and building that tree. And then if you have a specific, thank you guys, if you have a specific person in mind, to match that up to the time, place, and the occurrence, and to see if the possibility exists well, look, a case that's amazing now is this serial rapist, the attorney from New York that was a serial rapist in Boston in the 90s. And they're putting these cases together. So far, I believe they have 4 or 5, and they came up with 4 more. So everywhere that this attorney has been, they need to do a deep dive into some of the rapes that occurred. And now he's in CODIS, the combined DNA index system. He's in that system now, and they could search him nationally for DNA that they have for other rapes. One of the problems is, and I don't know if you guys totally understand this, but some cases that are really interesting cases, like this case of this attorney, New York attorney who was a serial rapist in Boston, we don't cover it a lot of times because YouTube will demonetize us. And it's not even getting demonetized. We'd be willing to get demonetized. But when they demonetize you, they also don't push the episode, so you get very few views, even though the show could be fantastic. For example, last night's show with Eliza Fletcher, immediately I got demonetized. And what does that do? It keeps the numbers. Even though I thought last night's show was good, very good, but it keeps the numbers down. And then you protest it, you appeal it, and it usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4 days. Lula Morocco, one day Bill is going to break out the triple O. Well, thank you, appreciate that. So, it has a twofold negative effect. You get demonetized, and it keeps the numbers in the show down because YouTube is not pushing it. It's not hitting the YouTube algorithm, and you have a small audience. All right, so just so you guys know, that's why a lot of these shows, you even just mention the word rape, and they're all ready to demonetize you. Right on, Josephine. Thank you for the $9.99 super sticker. Very much appreciated. Hi, Erica Olson. Good to see you from Judy B. It's Mimi. That's strange. Well, that's all part of, it's their channel, and you're just a guest on it, It's like even now, Twitter is supposed to be... Diana Krause, thank you so much. Last night's show was great and so sad. Princess Mitch, what show does YouTube push? Well, it's not specific shows. Well, actually it is. I'm not going to say what shows they push, but I did a show last month or the month before, and for some reason the title somehow hit the algorithm. And even though the show in the chat had 700 or 800 people watching. The show got 130,000 views. That's the most I ever got on a single show. 130,000 views on a single show. So somehow, if I could know how to hit that YouTube algorithm every time, I would do it. But somehow, certain words are triggered. That's right. There was the Murdoch case, and in my title, and this wasn't the one where I hit 130,000, but in my title I put what's the saying again? What a tangled web we weave when we choose to deceive. I put that in my title, and the show skyrocketed. I don't remember how many, but I remember before I hit the 130,000 view show, that was my biggest single show. What a tangled web we weave when we choose to deceive. Robbie, thank you for the 99 super sticker. Robbie from Australia, Unsolved Crimes. Keywords, hashtags that prompt the significance of retreating to, yeah, all of that stuff. You know, YouTube is a science, and you have to learn how to work the science. So I'm just educating you guys on why we do certain things. Like sometimes people will ask me, oh, do this case, do that case, and I'm like, I would love to, but it'll, out of the box, it'll get demonetized. And again, it'll get no numbers, no views. And as I told you guys earlier on in the show, I'm thinking of doing some shows about cops that are authors, cops and their books, and maybe I'll do it as a separate show. Besides, police off the cuff, real crime stories. Maybe I'll do like an author series, like cop books. Michael O'Keefe, who's written 3 books, he's a friend of mine. Michael O'Keefe was the cop in the 1990s who, he was involved in an incident where he was involved in a fight to the death with a drug dealer named Kiko Garcia. And he went after Kiko Garcia into a building. Writer's Corner with coffee, that's right on, Josephine. That's a pretty good idea. I'll come up with some new ideas. You always have to be changing. You always have to be willing to grow and take chances. And that's what I'm gonna try to do, take some chances, do something a little bit different. What do they say? I used to hate the expression, you have to think outside the box. But sometimes it's true, even though I don't love that expression, sometimes it's true. You do have to think outside the box. Anyway, get back to Michael O'Keefe. Michael O'Keefe was involved in a fight to the death, and had he not won this battle, there's no doubt he would have been killed, because Kiko Garcia had a gun, a 9mm in his hand, and Michael O'Keefe was able to fire first, and he killed Kiko Garcia in the hallway of this building up in Washington Heights. And that incident and the lies that were told by a drug crew up there almost got Michael O'Keefe indicted for the murder of Kiko Garcia. Good investigators from the 3-4 Detective Squad and Manhattan North Homicide and all the investigative units up there proved that the people who testified to the grand jury that they witnessed the shooting of Michael O'Keefe shooting Kiko Garcia, the investigators proved that they lied. But the Washington Heights riots went on for like 3 or 4 days, and there was all kinds of politics involved in it. And at some point, it was Michael O'Keefe was found out that he was perfectly justified, but he lives with that incident. You think that incident could cause PTSD? He lives with that incident for the rest of his life, flashing in front of his mind, probably every day of his life. No one likes to take someone else's life, even though by taking Kiko Garcia's life, he saved his own. So that's how he must feel in regards to that. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Coffee with Cannon, Backyard Beverage, Bitching with Bill, Coffee, Cups, Cannon, and Crime. There's so many names, I don't know what we got to take a vote on it one day. Anyway, if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up and ring that bell. A lot of good things happening for Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. And it's fun to just have this channel. I love my interactions with Phil Grimaldi, straight out of Brooklyn. Of course, Melanie Little, my buddy from my acting class, who is probably destined to become a YouTube star, whether on this show, Duty Ron Show, or her own show. I don't know if you guys have watched, she's done a few shows. She's already hit over 1,000 subscribers. She's done a bunch of shows on Kevin Costner's divorce, and she's getting some traction. She's so good, I think she could be, she could be a great podcaster, And of course, Michael Geary. I mean, what a find. And I taught at a college with Mike for over 10 years. And then I actually taught online at the school he was a dean at, Albertus Magnus in Connecticut. I used to teach there, but online. I worked pretty hard, man. When I was still on the job, I was working Kim Allister, thank you for the 20-pound super sticker. Very much appreciated, Kim. Kim, I hope you're feeling better. I know you've been a little bit under the weather. And Kim told me that she went to see Van Morrison last week, and she loves The Irishman. It's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars above in the sky. A fantabulous night to make romance 'neath the cover of October skies. And all the leaves on the trees are falling to the sound of the breezes that blow. And I'm dying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play fast and low. And all the night's magic seem to whisper and hush. And all the sun magic seems to shine in your blush. That's about all I'm singing. That if I had played that with the guitar, I'll be right on pitch. But sometimes that's with no accompaniment, that's a hard melody to keep going, Van Morrison, the best. He's, what a songwriter, right? What an amazing, amazing songwriter. My wife the other night went to see the Broadway show about Neil Diamond, and she said it was fantastic. He was a great songwriter too, right? So many good, Sweet Caroline, that became like a standard for everyone. Everyone loves to sing that in bars and stuff. Sweet Caroline, whoa, ho, ho. Good times never felt so good. So good, so good, so good. So he's been around, the 70s. Neil Diamond, Longfellow Serenade. Well, I like the one, she was morning and I was nighttime. One day I woke up to find her lying beside my bed. I softly said, come take me. Great, great, great songwriter, amazing. How did we get involved in all talk about music when we're supposed to be talking about true crime? It's all right, right? Wah, 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 best song ever. Okie dokie 7. Yeah, Neil Diamond, and LA's fine, the sun shines most of the time and the feeling's laid back. Palm trees grow and rents are low. But I don't want to be making my way back. I'm New York City born and raised, and nowadays I'm lost between two shores. LA's fine, but it ain't home. New York's home, but it ain't mine no more. I am myself. Almost lost that one. Great, great songwriter. Yep. Dawn Marie, Judy B, Sweet Caroline. Yeah, that was probably one of his biggest hits. Vet Girl, thank you for enjoying the channel. I enjoy having you guys and just being able. This show, Coffee with Cannon, Backyard Beverage, Bitching with Bill Coffee, Crime, Cannon, Courts, whatever you want to call it. I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing in the wire, I hear you singing through the vine. And the Wichita lineman is still on the line. Man, today I sang a lot of different songs. Wow. So I enjoy doing this show too, because it's not as strict, the format, as Police Off the Cuff. We cover a case, we stay on that topic. I'm never going to sing a song on Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. But this is a little Backyard Beverage, a little looser. I get just to talk with you guys, get to hang out with you guys. Glenn Campbell, Mimi, he was great. You know, that's an amazing story about Glenn Campbell. He had Alzheimer's or dementia, and he couldn't remember his name, but he still remembered all the lyrics to the songs, and he could still play the guitar well into his Alzheimer's or his dementia. I'm not sure exactly what it was. And he kept playing. Isn't that amazing? Like, he could still play his instrument, but he couldn't remember things, you know? And Tony Bennett, same thing. Tony Bennett did a concert with Lady Gaga in Radio City Music Hall. And he couldn't remember a thing, except when he got on stage, it was like magic, you know? Magic that he remembered the words, that he could sing on pitch. And it was just, yeah, music makes connections. Yeah, just incredible, you know? And it's a healing thing, too, you know? I think old people that are in assisted living or nursing homes, they hear music and they perk right up, you know? Yes, Princess Mitch, I was talking about Tony Bennett. He did a concert with Lady Gaga at Radio City, and he could remember all the words to the songs, which is just incredible, an incredible thing. Cammy, too, thank you so much. Magical Mary, he had Alzheimer's. Okay, yeah. Music is a different part of the brain. You know, I always thought that, too, because, you know, you could like want to learn an instrument and work really, really hard at it and just get to a certain level. And then there's people that are born with really innate musical talent. Like you see people that have perfect pitch. And so they say that can be a curse, though, too. You know, someone could hear the dial tone on a phone, dating myself, and be like, "Oh, that's off key. That's off key. That's supposed to be an A, and it's an A flat." You know, so. But yeah, no, people with innate talent. You see, I've seen people that had been playing the guitar for 3 or 4 years, and they were great. And I was like, "How long have you been playing?" And they're like, "Oh, 4 years." And you're like, "Holy crap! I've been playing for 20. I'm not even close to that good." You know. Brad R, thank you, buddy. So nice to talk to all you guys today. And you know, today's a leisurely day. I think everyone should relax, spend time with the family. You know, you spend time with your family. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. Don Corleone. I love quoting that film, you know. When I was in Florida with Phil, we were shooting a short little video. And I said to him, the guy who approaches you and tries to arrange a meeting, he's the traitor. And Phil was supposed to say, I know, Pop, because that was Don Corleone saying that to his son, Michael. And he had said it to him, obviously, numerous times before, because he was like, I know, Pop, you told me that already. But so many great lines in that movie, you know. And of course, the other, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, you know. He made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Remember that one? That was a famous line. To me, The Godfather 1 and 2 are probably 2 of the greatest movies ever made. In my opinion, I know other people are going to say, oh, that's not true. In my opinion, I think it's 2 of the greatest movies ever made. Look at the casts. I mean, a lot of the cast are dead now. Marlon Brando, James Caan just died in the last year. Lisa Carver, Goodfellas, great also. Goodfellas just lost Ray Liotta, fantastic actor. He just died, 67 years old. He just died last year. He didn't look healthy, though, you know. Who else? Abe Vigoda, I don't think he's still around anymore. Richard Castellano, I don't think he's still around. Diane Keaton's still around. Al Pacino's 83 years old, I think. So many great actors, and Lee Strasberg, obviously, he played Meyer Lansky. I want you to enjoy your cake. Let me tell you a little story. Your father and I, we used to run molasses out of Cuba. Your father was running the olive oil. And we never questioned each other because it was business. It was business, not personal. That was another thing from that movie. Guys, I just hit 50 minutes. I had a great time today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's fun for me to do these Coffee with Cannon shows, and I love when you guys show up and root me on and interact with me. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you real soon.